What's up, guys? Welcome to the weekly technicals live session for Sunday, March 3rd, 2019. And we are currently looking at the economic calendar for this upcoming week. And if you guys look, we have, it's actually an NFP week, but luckily we don't have, FOMC as well. But we do have a few high impact news events that we do want to be on the lookout for. So for today, we have some Australian dollar news during Asia session, both medium and high impact, just building approvals and company operating profits. And for Monday, we don't really have too much here, but there will likely still be a setup, determining if that's going to be between London and New York. I'll most likely be trading New York Monday. That way I can let Sunday and London session for Monday kind of get underneath my belt, and then I'll have some more price action to work with for going into Tuesday, but that could lend to a potential setup on Monday during New York session. Now for Tuesday, we have two medium impact dollar index news releases at 4:30 and 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we got a speaker and a non-manufacturing PMI. So that could definitely lend a bit of volatility, and we also have a high impact British pound news for 7:35 a.m. Pacific Standard as well, and we could definitely see some British pound volatility here. And then later in the day, we have more Australian dollar high impact. So we've got a lot of Australian dollar news this week. We could definitely see some big movement for that pair, as well as dollar CAD. So if you look, on Wednesday, we have the rate announcement and trade balance overnight rate all at between 5:30 and 7 a.m. with Canadian dollar. So we could definitely see a lot of volatility for Canadian dollar. In fact, you guys can see there's, for the week, the majority of the week is containing Australian dollar and Canadian dollar news releases. So those could definitely be two volatile pairs this week, and they are pretty correlated in terms of how they move. So if dollar CAD's moving up, Australian dollar should be moving lower. And Thursday we have ECB for euro, so this will definitely be a pretty volatile day for euro. So for me, guys, and then Friday we have NFP. So for me, as well as daylight savings time. So I didn't realize that daylight savings is back again. So for me, the days that I'll primarily be trading this week will be New York Monday through Thursday New York session. So during ECB though, I won't be taking a position on euro unless I'm already in something, just because we could definitely get a lot of volatility. And same for CAD. So we may look into trading dollar CAD or Australian dollar this week as well, if there isn't much movement going on with both euro and pound. So that's it for me on the economic calendar standpoint. Let's move over to the charts now. And we're going to keep everything pretty much on a daily perspective, just like we normally do for these weekly technicals. Those of you in the premium group, you know that we do 3 daily technicals, and if you're not in the premium group, just to give you guys some context that do pay attention each week to these weekly technicals, I have a premium group where I work with some traders, and basically what we do is do daily analysis on the market, as well as I share with them any trades that I take. So I've definitely been light on my trades right now, just because I'm waiting for the markets to give me some more clarity. But in terms of what we do inside the premium group, it's a lot more exclusive access to kind of me and any questions they have for me, any questions about the charts, anything like that. I can work with them on a real personal kind of one-on-one basis. So if you guys are interested in that, and you're watching this on YouTube, the link will actually be the first link right below in the description. But moving back to the charts, looking at dollar index here on the daily chart, you guys can see we've come into the 96 big figure support, and we've started to kind of round out a low here, getting some strength. So going into Monday and for the remainder of the week, I would like to see dollar index just continue pushing higher. So in my opinion, I don't really think they need to go lower. And they could definitely consolidate in here, but personally, I think they're going to want to, just gradually push it higher. We may not get explosive moves higher, but at least they're going to, I believe they will gradually continue pushing it higher. So first target for the upside will be 96.80, then we've got 97.40, and then we've got 97.70 to 97.80, which is our daily equal high liquidity back here. And that's what we'll be targeting longer term. But for this week, I would definitely like to see them, continue pushing above this swing high. Once we get above here, we could have some sort of like a retest, and that will be an opportunity for us to go long, targeting higher prices, and we could see, them continue above 97.40, 97.50, and so forth from there. So if you look at the overall price structure of dollar index on the daily chart, you guys can see that we've got a low, and then we've come up and we've made a higher high here, right? So the market is now trapped in between this low and this high, right? That's the daily range that we're working within. So we're still within a consolidation longer term. Notice what the market has been doing though. Even though we're in a consolidation, we've still been holding bullish market structure. So here's what I mean. We haven't necessarily been forming higher highs, right? We haven't made a higher high higher than this, but notice the lows. In here, we did have some lows that the market did inevitably come drop down and take out, right? But we dropped right into monthly support, had a little bit of a rally, came back down one more time into monthly support, made another low, right? Then we had a huge, I wouldn't say huge, but a pretty decent rally up, right? Failed to get above the equal highs. But we did, in fact, break above this high. Okay, so we broke above this high that we had here. So while the market was continuing lower, forming lower highs, at this point we came up and made a higher high, right? So not higher than the previous, overall daily market structure, but in terms of, within the consolidation, you can see that there is some bullish, there's buyers within this market, for example, right? So we broke above here. And then we came all the way back down into what level? 96 big figure, which is a big figure level, as well as a daily ICT order block, as well as, let's put the fib on there and see what specific level, but it is also, so the 70.5 sweet spot level on the fibs as well. So a lot of things lining up around that 96 big figure, and you guys can see that we've started to get a little reaction off of that. So we were dropping lower all the way into that level, and then once we got there, we're starting to see strength. So if you look at the overall structure of the market, we're still maintaining higher low points, right? So at this point, what I'll be looking for is higher high points above this high, and then above this high, and then above these highs. Right, so those will be my targets in terms of the upside, and we can essentially, assume that that's what they're going to do, because if you look at the overall daily structure, right, we have not been able to make a lower low, and that indicates to us that there is buyers, aka strength, within this market. Alright, so everything will change if we get back below Thursday's low, which comes in at 95.82. So we will make this like, what color could I make this and not get confused? We'll just do black. And this is 95.82. Okay, so if we get below that level, then we could definitely see a deeper run into this order block, potentially even clearing out the liquidity below these lows in here. But as long as we remain above 95.80, we should definitely see higher prices to consolidating higher, right? So even though we could be still in a consolidation, I would expect consolidation but gradually moving higher, okay? So for euro dollar, if we're expecting higher prices, that means we should be looking for lower prices in foreign currency, right? So looking at euro dollar, you guys can see that And something interesting, I'll actually go down to a intraday chart on this because I want to show you guys something. But in terms of a daily, same thing with this, right? You guys can probably see it. We're trapped within a consolidation, right, between that low and this high, okay? But this market has still been respecting overall bearish market structure, right? So you can see we're trapped between the low and the high, but notice what the market did here. We broke down, made a lower low, came all the way back up, retraced, right? And you can draw your fib one here if you want. Perfect 79%, right? That's what you would expect in a bearish market. You would expect it not to go above 79%. You get that here. Market sells off again, created a new lower low. Fails to take out the liquidity below 1220, but ultimately we did form a lower low. Now we've come back up and looking like we found resistance. So if we draw our fib on this as well, this one came into 61.8, right? But there's some more details that we can gain from the intraday charts once we go down there in just a second. So overall, since you guys can see that we are in a relative bearish market for this currency pair, what will we be looking for going forward? Lower prices, right? So the next target in terms of the downside would be this low here, right? And this low comes in at 1235. So our next downside objective is 1235. So it's over 100 pips from where we're at now, right? So there's going to be potential intraday trades for us to get short and have that as a target, right? So we may not hold it until we get down to that point, but think about the moves you can catch between there, right? You can catch 20, 30, 40, 50 pips, you know, all throughout here and still keep a portion on for your remaining target. But this thing, in my opinion, should continue lower. Ideally, I do not want to see them break above 1420, which is Thursday's high. If we do get above 1420, then we could see a deeper run into the 1.15 big figures, clear out some liquidity here. But for the most part, I would expect this thing to continue lower from Thursday's high and just continue selling off. Okay, so let's move into an hourly. I want to show you guys something really quickly. All right, so if you look at these equal highs, right, that we left in the market, I believe this was Thursday. It was either Wednesday or Thursday, but we left equal highs in the market. Let me just show you. All right, as the market's forming, it just formed these equal highs, right, on February 26th. The market's showing willingness to run lower, right? Most people are going to see this as a double top and sell off, right? We would look to basically disregard that and expect higher prices at least above the equal highs. So the equal highs are at 14 big figure, so we would look for a run above them up into 1410 or 1420, for example, right? So let's see what the market does. All right, so we trade lower. Where do we trade lower into? We clear out liquidity below here and we trade back into this support level. And then look what the market does. Runs all the way up, right? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 5 consecutive bullish hourly candles. Provides 50 pips for an opportunity. And we run 20 pips above the 14 big figure, taking us into 1420, right? So the high of the week comes in at 1419.6, which is essentially 1420. It's 1419 and 6 pipettes, which is, if you round it up, it's definitely 1420. So less than a pip in terms of accuracy for this high, right? And then the market continues to sell off, right, from that 1420 level. So that in itself is very interesting because of the fact that this could be a more significant high, right? So then we come back lower here, fail to break below the low, one final spike up, right, into 1410 essentially, 1408, and another sell-off. So based on the fact that we've done all this work kind of around this 14 big figure, I believe they're going to want to start taking this thing much, I don't want to say much lower, but at least lower for the near term on this week. So we have these equal lows resting here at 1345. So I just calibrated the level to 1350, and that's only about 12 pips away, but that's my next target on the downside. And then I have 1310, which will take us below the liquidity here, as well as back into this ICT order block. And then if we drop even lower, we've got 1275 with resting liquidity, and then 1235, and then you guys know we have our 1220 level way back there. So that will be much longer term, 1220, but in the near term, I definitely think our 1350, 1310, and potentially 1275 would be logical targets to aim for this week. So that is what I'll be looking for on euro dollar. Now we'll move to British pound. All right, so this one, and as you guys can see, I cleaned up my charts a bit. So everything is updated with the current levels and what levels you should be looking for going forward, etc. So for this, if you guys go back and watch a few of the most recent videos, you'll see that the levels that we had were a bit different. So we had 32, we had 33, 3350, etc. But we have now came all the way up and cleared out the liquidity, right? So we have to make new targets, right? So what would the new targets be? The swing highs resting to the left of us. So we've got 1.3360, we've got 3470, 3615, and 3705. So those will be my targets. We've got swing high, swing high, swing high, swing high, and then right here, this is a low that was never retested. So broken market structure here, but we never actually came back up into that 3705 level to retest and see weakness. So if we come back up into that level, we could see a little bit of a sell-off. Now, not an overall change in trend or anything like that, but we could definitely see some weakness from that level, considering that we'd be taking out all this daily liquidity, and they would want to essentially retrace into some level of support to give, like the big institutions and everything, just kind of there would be an opportunity there for them to buy, for example. But if we're looking at this, I potentially see British pound. I wouldn't like this, but we could definitely retrace back into the 1.3110. But ideally, I'd like them to find support, pretty much where they're at now, between 3150, 32 big figure, and continue to see them expand to the upside. I will be on the sidelines right now for this pair until I can either get support to be found within the 1.32s or 1.3150s, and if not, then I'll be looking at the 1.3110, and if I can get a potential buy set up around that level specifically. But more than likely for this, depending on what dollar index does. So for example, if dollar index continues to trade higher, we could see this thing move into a consolidation for a bit and let the volatility be within like euro, for example. But overall, I do see longer term this thing wanting to continue higher and press up into these levels here because there is a lot of buy side liquidity resting above the market. So that's really what I'll be looking for on cable. And finally, before we wrap up, this is Euro GBP. So perfect delivery of price so far on this pair. We've expanded below our 86.20 level, and like I said, if you don't remember, go back to our previous videos and you can see this 86.20 level. We've been talking about it for a while now, even as the market was trading. Even as the market was trading all the way up here, right? So you can see that's over 200 pips or so. And how did I know when the market's at this level that we're going to continue lower, right? Number one being below the 50% level. But if you guys go back through those videos, you will actually see me talking about this particular pair selling off below 86.20 as we're at the high point of the range up in the 88s. But now that we're below 86.20, something that's happened, interestingly enough, last week, we have pushed up Thursday and Friday back up into the 86.20 level. So it would be nice to see them sell off from here, because as you guys can see, this is a perfect example of structure broken here. Big body candles closing below the low, indicating that there's weakness. Then we get a retracement taking us back up into old support, newfound resistance, and we could see a continued sell-off from 86.20 down below, the 84s and potentially into the 83s down here. So this is what I'm looking at, but if we are unwilling to find resistance at 86.20, we could definitely trade up into this little consolidation around the 86.80s. And at that point, we could find some resistance and sell off. But nonetheless, I'm still bearish this currency pair, which does lend to higher prices on British pound particularly. But we have to see whether or not we're going to get rejection from 86.20, or do we need to come back up into the 86.60s. So that's it for me today, guys. Hopefully you guys found some insights from this analysis video. But notice, I want you guys to notice one thing in particular, is I have not really changed my bias in terms of a higher time frame. So each week we do these weekly technicals, we stay on a daily time frame, and we anticipate where could price go. And you're not necessarily, as a trader, you shouldn't be switching your bias all the time, right? You really need to be sticking with the overall and underlying higher time frame bias, right? And for dollar index, we've continued to remain bullish, but intraday we have been bearish up until we've gotten to the 96 big figure level. Now we're able to be both higher time frame bullish and intraday lower time frame bullish as well, right? So before we were higher time frame bullish, intraday bearish, right? So that definitely can create it doesn't create the best setups in my opinion, but when you're in line with the higher time frame, so now we're in line with daily higher prices as well as anticipating higher prices on the intraday. Okay, so if we drop into a 60-minute, you can see this a little bit clearer. The market was dropping lower, forming lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, right? And what happens here? What happens when the market gets this strength and we expand above this high? We come back down, retest it, find support, and continue trading higher. So this is indicative of bullish price action forming on the lower time frame, right? So we already know we're bullish on the daily. Now we've got proof that we're getting bullish price action on the lower time frame, right? And you can come to a 15-minute and see it more clear. We've got low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? Then we have this little wick, which was probably a news release or something, and then the market just kind of explodes higher from there, right? But at the end of the day, notice the price action, right? This was your high. Okay, so the market was consolidating, dropped below the consolidation, came all the way back up, broke above the consolidation, dip back into it, right? So if you missed it here, boom, gave you another opportunity right here. If you missed that, gave you one more opportunity here, and then we took off, right? About 30, 35 pips or so from there. But notice how we had that confirmation of bullish price action also coming off of our 96 big figure level, right? So that's what you guys want to kind of notice. We dip below it, but notice the reaction here. Explosive, right? So we're getting nice expansion to the upside. So I think we'll start gunning for the 96.80 level up here. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys that little insight. When you're bullish on the higher time frame, such as the daily, and then you also see the lower time frame, like an hourly, for example, line up with that analysis, you got a pretty big trade on your hands, because at that point you're not just waiting for the daily to get in sync, right? The daily and the intraday is in sync, so you're going to be expecting kind of continuous bullish days, and that's how we would kind of frame it. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below the video and I'll answer any questions you have. But I will be pretty much live again for Tuesday during the daily technicals, which will be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard inside of the private Facebook group. So I'll talk with you guys then, premium group. And for those of you that watch on YouTube and pay attention to these weekly technicals, I will talk with you guys again next Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard. So expect it to be posted to YouTube about 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. And yeah, that is it for today, guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. And I will talk with you guys depending on whether or not you're in the group, either in a few days or next week. So you guys have a good trading week and take it easy, and I will talk to you guys soon.